Hey, welcome to my Travel Wins podcast, and today my guest is Derek Jackson. Derek is a entrepreneur, kind of all-round founder, principal, manager. You got a lot going on. How are you today, Derek?
I'm good. Thank you.
I appreciate the time. Kind of, if you can't give my listeners kind of a background of how you got started and where you're headed.
Well, interestingly enough, it all started when I graduated from college.
There you go.
I had a relative who was and is what I consider the godfather of hip-hop. And upon graduation, he asked me to join forces with him, and I did. And with great joy, of course.
Okay.
And so from there, it was kind of like on-the-job training. First album I ever worked on was LL Cool J's Mama Said Knock You Out.
That's a good starter.
Right. Great starter. And to add, had the opportunity to live with him, with LL, while we did the album. So it was almost a 2-for-1. You know, he was somebody I admired and looked up to in music.
Sure.
Fan. And to go from, college, which, college is an experience in its own right. But to go from there to living with somebody you look up to is amazing.
Yeah, especially right out of college. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So from there, I got my feet wet working on that project and several others, the Heavy D's, the Moni Loves, and it spawned my own creative juices. And from there, I founded a group out of the school I went to called Lords of the Underground. Put them out, and then in my travels, because of that, speaking of traveling,
yeah.
I traveled down to Philadelphia and to see Boys II Men invited me down.
Nice.
To see a singer, and it was at a park. And while I was at that park, a member of De La Soul, for a stretch, they had a female in the group, and that female I knew, and she asked me to go across the park. I ventured off with her across the park, and that turned into my finding the roots.
Okay. So
I found the roots and was extremely diligent about getting them signed. I was so fascinated by, realizing this was the first hip hop band.
That's crazy.
It looked really weird to me, but it was really amazing. So at that point, I was working at Def Jam. So I brought it to Russell Simmons and Leroy Cohen. Did a huge showcase. They loved it, but just thought it would be an expensive undertaking because there were so many members associated with the group. So what ends up happening is that a dear friend of my partners at the time, she had just gotten a job with Geffen Records and with David Geffen. Oh, wow. So she was enthralled by it and said, "Listen, I want to put this in front of David Geffen to sign it. What are your thoughts?" I was like, "Well, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I want to do that?" So she set up a meeting in Hollywood, California for us all to come out to meet David Geffen. Came out, met David. David loved it and signed it.
Were you working as a manager for them at the time, or?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yes, I was managing them, and from there, we started that journey. Simultaneously, I was representing other artists and producers, and I've been very blessed in this business. I often associate my blessings with ADD.
Yeah, exactly.
Having the ability to multitask to me is what was the defining factor to make so much happen throughout my career. So I found the roots, did that, kept going at Def Jam. Pretty much during the 90s, I was in some way, shape, or form associated with a lot of the hit records that went through the system.
Yeah.
Because I managed a lot of the producers as well. So
that's
ended up at...
That's part of the industry. Can I interrupt you real quick? Because that's part of the industry I don't think a lot of people understand. Like, you manage producers.
Right.
Everyone knows, this artist or this artist has a manager and this and that. But there's managers within the behind-the-scenes people as well. That's crazy to me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, managers for writers, managers for producers. Yeah. It's par with the course of what and how it's structured. You know, the business of music is far more intense than what people think. And I tend to use the analogy that, you know, when you look at the word show business, the word show is much smaller than the word business.
Yeah.
So let that kind of help you understand what it all means. It's a business. And, you know, it's just important, you know, to make sure things are done properly. So that's why, in essence, why everybody has it. So
No, I get it. I just don't think a lot of people understand that.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And how much traveling, like in the 90s, when you're working with the Roots and all these other groups, how much traveling were you doing at that time? Or does a manager travel to most of their? I mean, were you going to the shows as well, or were you just kind of going?
Oh yeah. You know, when you manage an artist, you pretty much are running side by side.
Yeah.
So everywhere the artist goes, you go. You know, because you're the representation. What you do once a group becomes really successful is you bring on a road manager, somebody who just travels with them and takes care of things so that you can be stable and take care of the business for the group.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you know, it sounds great when you're single and you're young, but then when you want to get married and have kids, it's probably much more difficult to be on the road.
No, it absolutely is. But the sad part is, it's like sports, right?
And the more successful your artists get, the more you're on the road.
There you go, and that's the part of the game of sacrifice.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
You know, so as much as you may not want to, you know, you have to, or at least establish it, and then you can get off the road. You need to go on the road in the beginning stages with the artists to get them acclimated, get them comfortable. You know, make sure things are done right, and then once there's a system in place, you can get off the road.
Yeah. How do your artists deal with that as well? Meaning, artists, I'm sure some artists are like, man, I don't want to be on the road for 6 months, but I have to. How do you
know what? You'll see that more as artists get older.
Yeah.
And have been around for a while, but they may not want to do it. But a new artist is just in awe because it's an incredible, like, you know, obviously traveling is something I deeply appreciate and have a ton of fun with. I love to travel.
Yeah.
I love hotels. I'm a hotel connoisseur / enthusiast.
I gotcha. What makes a win for you in hotels?
Great sheets.
Okay.
Incredible pillows. Firm mattress.
I like nice towels.
Yeah, I was going to say that next. Absolutely. Yeah. Towels were important. You know.
All the basics, but yeah, I mean, you like the nice sheets.
And of course, you like the amenities.
Sure.
Right? You like other things that they may offer. Yeah, I mean,
What are some of your favorite cities to visit?
Some of these cities have become homes for me. But outside of the ones I often visit, I would say Houston is a great city.
Okay, I've been there a couple times. Yeah,
I like Houston, Chicago, DC. You know, Seattle. Throughout my career, I've been to these cities multiple times. On tour, you know, meetings, business. So,
been all over. I know she didn't say New York.
Well, because I've lived in New York.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That's where I live.
Yeah.
You know, so New York is something like I tell people. It is the greatest city in the United States. The energy is unparalleled. You can't get what you get in New York anywhere else. LA has a lot to offer. It's a certain energy. Same for Miami, the same for Chicago, the same for Atlanta. But New York just has something unique to its own. So I live for that.
Yeah. What do you live in the LA area now, though, right?
I am visiting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm visiting.
Nice.
You know, but I'm in. You know, my time is New York.
Gotcha. What about? I mean, you know, you're mentioning all these artists you work with, and I'm sitting there going, that was my '90s. You know, is it strange for you to see? I mean, if you were with Def Jam in the either late '80s or early '90s, I mean, that was kind of the beginning.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, you can go into the early '80s into New York, but I guess more mainstream was probably mid to late '80s with Run DMC and some of the other groups. That's crazy that you were right there. Do you think a lot of your success has been kind of right place, right time, or is it? I mean, because it's not all luck. It's like, I mean, you put yourself in those positions.
Yeah, I probably say that. Right time. As I said, I actually, and because I've pondered it. I've always thought, listen, when you're active as a person and you're outgoing, things happen.
Yeah.
Things happen for you. So for me, I kind of feel like a lot has happened for me because I am outgoing. And it's just allowed me to meet people. And when you meet people, out of that comes something.
That's where the ADD comes in handy.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And I always, I always, say that's the reason.
I mean, the odds of you being at a park and then somebody that tells you, hey, let's go look at these people, and it ends up being the Roots. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, what if you would have said, no, I got something else to do, or you would have been later or earlier? It wouldn't have happened,
Right, exactly. No, it is by far, one of my greatest finds, because from that came so much other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so what do you have going on now? I know it's a lot. That's why I'm asking.
I've got an artist. I like to consider him the greatest show on earth. His name is DJ Stevie J.
Yep.
He's a DJ for Club Live in Miami, and has a huge record coming out with Chris Brown and Little Durk.
That's got to be exciting for him.
Yeah. So that right now, I've got another group coming out, Pittsburgh, a great group. I like to consider them a first as well. It's the first interracial rap group in the history of hip hop.
What? Really?
Yeah. When we look at it historically, there's never been a duo of the sort. But
hey, you're right. I'm trying to think back.
Yeah, you can think back. You'll be thinking. We just never had one.
That's
this will be it's crazy. So this will be a first. And I'm super excited because they're both extremely talented. And as a duo, they just have magic. And that's what I look for when I look for artists. I look for magic. Something that really is special about them.
Do you ever talk to do you ever talk to them ahead of time saying, hey, here's what's involved, at every stage? Meaning, hey, you're going to be on the road 200. I mean, the people I've interviewed, the musicians travel more than anybody else I know.
Without question.
I mean, I talked to one guy, he's on the road 240 days plus a year.
That's the Roots.
And I'm like...
The Roots were on the road. We almost made an argument the Roots were on the road 300 days a year.
Yeah. I mean, do you talk to these guys as they're coming up saying, hey, I know it sounds great, but 300 days on the road, a year on the road can be rough. Do you do you prepare them for it?
Yeah, I try to share that. I try to share that with them, that the rigors of the road, but if you approach the road, the one thing I tell people, if you approach the road with just an open mind, it can be exhilarating,
sure,
regardless of the amount of days. You start to get homesick, yeah, no doubt about it. But if you're on the road with folks you like, you're bonding with them, and then you bond with people as you meet them. I think that's the one thing about the music business that you turn into. You just turn into a magnet for people, and you're at ease with building relationships outside of your circle.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a choice. If I've got to be in Milwaukee today, and then 2 days later I've got to be down in Little Rock, and we're moving at that pace, there are going to be people I meet. You find yourself eating dinner with different people
all the time. Yep.
Yeah.
That's how I started this podcast, man.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because I just kept meeting people, and I had a buddy 3+ years ago say, you should start a podcast. And I'm like, I don't know about what, MMA or this or golf or what, any of my interests. And I'm like, everybody I meet's always traveling, and I meet random people everywhere, because I'm like you. It's like you just start talking to people on the airplane or at a hotel or whatever, and then so now I a lot of times I hit them back up.
Right, and let's do something, and that's it.
Yeah,
but you can't. The thing is that's what my pitch is to them. Just don't be afraid of the road, and don't. The roots have roots. Pun there. Everywhere they go, because they've been traveling.
nonstop.
Ridiculous amount of days a year for years. So wherever they go, they've got deep-rooted relationships with people.
Do you think that's why they took the job with Jimmy Fallon? So they could be.
Yeah, they were getting older. Yeah, they were getting older. They were getting, cool, but they were getting, it's like this is a heck of a routine to continue.
Yeah, it's get a steady job, and especially in your 40s. I mean, my wife, I don't know. It's kind of a balance, though. Because like for me, I like being on the road because I feel like when I'm on the road, I'm making money.
Exactly.
And so when I'm at home, and and I think that was the hard part for quarantine for a lot of people that travel. It's like, especially musicians, man. I mean, if you're not performing, you're not making money a lot of times.
You're not, and you're stuck. So, and the road is where you build the fan base.
Yeah, it's where you get good too, though.
Yeah, you get good because you're forced to just do what you need to do to get people to like what you're doing. So, yeah, absolutely.
How? God, there's so many questions I want to ask you because you've been around for so long. In the sense of, I mean, the music industry. I mean, hip hop. I still remember back when hip hop wasn't allowed on MTV. And then you had Doc and then they had their own show finally on MTV because you couldn't see it, and now it's complete opposite. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because now rap, R&B, hip hop is everywhere, or at least maybe it's just where I live. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I remember when it wasn't.
Yeah.
And to watch it now just be the centerpiece, it speaks volumes of how it's kind of come in and made people feel a certain way. So, that's the greatest part of it. Yeah. I love watching it. It's an incredible thing.
How much has streaming instead of record sales or CD sales affected the music industry?
It's benefited the music business. This is the most lucrative period in the history of music.
How's that?
Well, streaming generates a ton of income for the labels. A ton of it. It takes out a lot of the cost associated with distribution because, you're not manufacturing hard copies. It's digital. So it's your bottom line looks a lot sweeter, than it once did when everything was related to, making records or physical records and physical CDs and cassettes.
Do you still make videos for your artists? Do they make?
Yeah, that's a necessity.
Okay.
That's a necessity. Can't do it without.
Because that's a huge expense too, right?
It is, but not as much as it used to be. It used to be.
Well, now, you got drones that are. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do now. That's what amazes me. Like I look at some of the shots, and my daughters are working on stuff, and I'm like, you would have had to rent a helicopter before. Now it's a $2,000 drone that just goes up, gets the shot, and you're done.
Yeah, I mean, you can do where videos used to be immensely expensive. Nowadays, videos. That same video that might cost you $50,000, you could do that same video for $1,000.
Yep.
Because we've kind of created this landscape of folks. Everybody wants to be in the space.
Do you feel that way with music too? And I ask you because, like before, especially in the 80s, 90s, you had to go to a studio and record it, and now I mean, you could record stuff on your phone.
Right, exactly.
Do you think it's easier for an artist to break out with music, or is it harder? Because I see it going both. I see it going both
harder.
ways. Yeah.
I'm honest. It's harder because there's so much out there.
Yep.
It's clutter.
But
and it's hard to differentiate. At times.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Do you see what trends do you see in rap and hip hop? What do you see? What are the next trends?
Well, what I hope,
sure,
is that it becomes more creative. It's gone south of creativity.
Man, see, I totally agree with you. And I always chalked it up to just being old.
No, not at all. That's actually a farce. If they talk, as if people who have been around for a while don't have a creative eye anymore or understand creativity. That's ludicrous. Yeah. We understand what's good and what's not good, and sadly, we're at a period where because it has no real gatekeepers anymore, because record labels go to the internet to find music.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not a gatekeeper in the world, and what we're looking for nowadays tends to be more about the amount of followers than the greatness of the creativity.
Exactly, I totally agree.
So,
artists are trying to create the following by whatever means necessary, versus just creating good music or getting better at their music trait.
Right. Exactly.
Do you see?
And what does that do to the music?
Do you see groups coming back?
Do I see the roots coming back?
No, groups. I.e.,
yeah, I do.
It seems like there's a lot of solo artists have been, I don't like names, but back in Run DMC, Beastie Boys, Houdini, the Gap Band, there are a lot of groups, and now it seems like it's a lot of solo artists.
There are, and I think a lot of times that happens because that's just the spirit of the space and the time.
I gotcha.
People are at home by themselves.
Yeah.
And they end up making music on their own.
Instead of having to get together. I gotcha.
Right.
Because, imagine if you think, like Charlie Wilson would have been a good singer either way, but would he have had the success as a solo artist versus being in the Gap Band? I
don't know, but
or either of the guys of Run DMC, or all three of them.
That's a good question.
So that's kind of crazy to think. If any of those guys would have come out today, would they have had the creative juices? The Beastie Boys, if you would have broken them up and said, "Hey, you're a solo artist," to start. So I don't know. It's interesting.
It's definitely worth the conversation.
Kind of crazy. So what do you have coming up other than what other businesses are you working on? Because every time I see
I'm in
the
technology. I'm in the technology space. I'm really trying to bridge the gap between technology and music. So I have an application with Carlos Slim and Verizon,
cool.
which helps to monetize content creators.
Okay.
And their lifestyle content. I'm building another application, which is more of a peer-to-peer B2B for artists and the consumer, in a way in which it allows the consumer to not have to get caught in the rigmarole of what they are in the normal space, like going over to Spotify, then to have to go all the way over to YouTube, then to go all the way. You have to look at everything in different places.
Yep.
I put everything in one space, in a wall garden. So,
because I remember reaching out to you about podcasts. Would podcasts be part of that?
You know what? We do intend on making that happen, just like I intend on adding additional verticals that are in the space.
Yeah.
Because I think it's only right. So yeah, as we go, we're going to continue to extend. But in the initial phase, we want to allow an artist to be able to on our app to distribute a song, distribute the content, and then perform live, all in one vacuum.
Gotcha. And not just hip hop or R&B, right? I mean,
no.
I gotta imagine
any genre. The one thing I do want to do is important to me.
Yeah.
Is pushing for the talented people.
Gotcha.
That used to be important to us.
It used to help.
Right. And it still does, whether we realize it or not. It's kind of almost like it's in the shadows. But the most talented people are still at the top of the food chain at the end of the day. And that never goes away. It's just so eroded by so much of the garbage that it doesn't seem like it. But the most talented people are still linger at the top.
Well, and you're no overnight success, just like myself, right? You know, and I guess a lot of artists, I think, hey, I'm going to get my record deal, you know, blah blah blah. But it's work.
It's work.
I mean, work.
And I'm always quick to tell people that don't be excited because somebody patted you on the back today.
Yeah, exactly. So true. So true. What other advice do you give artists, whether you signed them or not? I mean, when you hear, do you ever go up and say, "Hey, I'm Derek Jackson, this and that"? That's how you meet people, right?
Yeah, I think my advice to artists is, you know, look at the artists of the past. Use them as symbols of what it takes to be great. Don't come into the business just looking for quick cash. If you're going to be an artist, be true to the craft, be true to the art, and the money will come. Yeah. Fans follow greatness. And, you know, that's not to take away from artists today and what they do. The ones that are big have a talent of some sort, or people wouldn't really follow it.
Sure.
So I just say, you know, make your heroes the heroes of the past and emulate that. Emulate the sincerity when it comes to the music. Emulate the creativity. Be different. You know, we got, like, you know, the running joke with T-Pain. That was funny because it's true.
Yeah.
Little baby, the baby, that baby, little this, little that. I mean, it's just, we've gotten to a place where following is zenith ahead of what I expected. You know, people don't even, as far as names, don't even have enough creativity to create a name that's not like the next person.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just unbelievable. So I just say to the new artists, you know, try to really be creative. Try to be different. It's okay to be different. You know, it's like, I feel like we're being educated in this day and time to be like everybody else. That's why cancer culture works. Because basically, in essence, it's saying we all need to think alike. And we don't. We don't. That's not what we're here for. We're not supposed to think alike. I don't have to agree with everything you say, regardless if it causes you distress or not. And if it does cause you distress, doesn't mean that I need to be canceled and not allowed to do what I do because I made you unhappy today.
And that's true, not just in the music industry. That's all of life.
That is all of life.
You know, that goes so far beyond just, I mean, that's just in society where we're at now. So, man, that's strong words right there. You know, how much traveling are you doing now? Are you constantly on the move?
Yeah, I'm on the move. Obviously, you know, COVID.
Yeah.
Has changed a lot of things. Yeah, I move. I move in accordance to need. I don't move as fast anymore because of it.
Yeah.
You know, but I still have a passion for it. That's the difference. I have a passion for traveling. That's how much I love it. You know, checking into the hotel, and like we talked about,
yeah,
you know, that checklist of things you like in a room. You know, the gym, the pool, the food.
I was going to say,
restaurants.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you get out? I mean, you know, in my younger days, I would just want to get in and get out. I would book my flights, and maybe it's because my kids were smaller, but now it's like, and I'd come home and they'd be like, oh, did you check that out? I'm like, oh no, I didn't have time. And I'm like,
Right.
Really? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, so now I always try and book a half day or a day to see the sights. If I'm I'm going to Dallas next week, and then, and then traveling again. I try and book in time. Do you do that? Do you try and see some of the sights when you're out and about?
Well, it's a part of what we do in the entertainment space. You have to see the sights because that's where the people are at.
Yeah, that's true.
So, ours is business within what's going on. So I absolutely get a chance to see a lot of stuff.
You like the restaurants too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love them. Love them.
How do you like for me, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, any of the big cities have great food, and then you get out to a small, I travel to very rural places as well, and it's like there's no food, it's all fast food.
Right.
How do you stay in shape? Do you have a specific diet, or do you do anything smarter now that you're older?
Try to eat right.
Yeah.
Stay active.
I remember when
I
was young, I didn't care.
Bike. Right, exactly.
The gym, I didn't care about the gym and the hotels when I was younger. I'm like, wow, I'm staying busy. I don't care. Let's go. Now I'm like, oh, let me go get my workout in. That's just interesting.
Yeah. So, you got a walk.
Yeah, you got to, right? What or do you have any plan? What are the travel plans coming up now that COVID's not over? But I mean, people are getting back. I'm sure Stevie J and some of the other people are going to start doing some performances and start getting out there.
Mm-hmm.
How far out are you booking right now?
It's still early. I know it seems like it's not, but it's still. We've got a big show in Milwaukee in September.
Yeah.
Obviously we do live every Sunday.
Yep.
Booking for the other groups, it's spotty because, the new variant has caused us to, once again, just not move as fast.
That's got to be frustrating for your artists too. I mean, because I know a lot of the musicians that I talked to were like, they started booking things for the end of this year. And now things are starting to already change.
Yeah.
So, how do you keep your artists happy with something you can't control?
You just look for other ways and other means at which to kind of create opportunity.
Gotcha. Is that easier now because of the computer?
Yeah, digital obviously has added that coolness. It helps.
Yeah, I mean, I look back. I don't know if. Oh, yeah, you did. I mean, I still remember traveling without a phone. You know what I mean?
That is funny.
No phone, no computer. So it was, you'd get to a place and buy a map.
That is funny.
So that's what I mean. So it's just got to be a lot easier now, I would think, to make things happen because like I can reach out to you because of our phones.
Right. Absolutely.
So now I'm meeting people without actually meeting people.
Made a world of difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And for good and bad, right?
Right.
So, well, I appreciate the time you gave me. What's the best way for my listeners to follow you? How do you like to share with what you got going on?
For me, it's all Instagram.
Okay. What's your? I know what it is, but what's your Instagram handle?
It is at Derek Jackson. At Mr. Derek Jackson. DEREK. I have to be clear about that, bro.
Yeah, you got one of those names. Derek Jackson's kind of a common name. So
yeah.
Going to
More
Mr.
common than I thought.
Mr. Derek Jackson.
Right.
So I appreciate that. I'll try and send people over, and then obviously, you know, I'm sure they'll follow Stevie J and everything else that you got going on. Do you have a website for the technology for the apps yet, or is that still in production?
A lot of next month.
Next month, okay.
It starts to happen. Yep. I will be. You know, you will see it on the page.
That might be perfect because this episode will probably air right around that time. It's going to probably air mid-September.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, it would be good timing. So I'll make sure to include that on my website and everything else that's coming up.
I appreciate that.
No, absolutely. Well, hey, take care of yourself, and hopefully we'll stay in touch, man. I really appreciate the time you gave me today.
We will, and I thank you so much for the time, and I appreciate giving me this opportunity.
No, absolutely. All right, buddy. Well, have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too.
All right, Derek.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.